Finance and accounting departments have unique needs and considerations as it relates to their digital transformations. What exactly is it that's different about digital transformation when you're in finance? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And oftentimes when we're working with our clients, helping them through their digital transformations, one of the biggest stakeholder groups we work with is the finance and accounting group. Oftentimes the CFO is heavily involved in the project, as is their direct reports within the finance and accounting groups. However, the needs of finance and accounting groups and the things that finance and accounting groups typically need to focus on during digital transformations are quite a bit different than the needs of other departments and other functions within organizations. So what I want to do today is talk about what are the things you need to be thinking about and how can you approach a digital transformation if you're in the seat of a finance or an accounting professional. This video will also be relevant to you if you are in a different department within the organization or if you're on a digital transformation project team. It'll help you understand what it is going to take to focus on the needs of finance and accounting stakeholders within your organization. Now, for other best practices and lessons learned from digital transformations, I encourage you to read our book called Lessons from 1,000 Digital Transformations. In this ebook, which you can download for free from our website, we cover a number of best practices and lessons learned for digital transformations, having helped several hundred and over 1,000 organizations throughout the world through their digital transformations. So you can read that book for free by scanning the QR code in front of you, or you can go to the links in the description field below. One of the first important priorities for a finance and accounting group, which I would argue should also be important for any stakeholder within the organization and any project team member, is to ensure that you're focused on getting the right financial controls in place. In other words, making sure that your project stays on track and that you actually implement on time and on budget. Oftentimes, stakeholders and project teams don't think enough about this important guardrail in a project, and they defer to the finance group to keep the reins on spending and keep the reins on how resources are being invested in the project. So as a finance and accounting team member, it's important to make sure that you're making smart investments in the digital transformation and that you're not letting the project turn into a money pit. So establishing these financial controls is one of the most important roles that you can play as a finance and accounting professional. Another role that finance and accounting groups often play in digital transformations is ensuring that you manage risk and that you focus on risk mitigation. In other words, identify and proactively mitigate risks before they become too much of a problem. And this is where it's oftentimes difficult for accounting and finance professionals because on one hand, usually an internal audit group or any other sort of risk management focus group is going to fall within the CFO or the finance group. But on the other hand, finance people typically are not experts in digital transformations. They don't always know or recognize what the risks are until they become painfully apparent. So the key here is really to recognize that while it is your role as a finance and accounting team member to identify and mitigate risk, you might need outside help to help you identify some of those risks. Now, another pitfall to be aware of here is that oftentimes your software vendors and even your technical consultants aren't the best inputs for identifying risk, partially because they're not focused on business risk like you are, because they're often focused on implementing technology, not on business risk. So the key here is to find an agnostic third party that has nothing to lose by helping you identify what some of those risks are, and ultimately an outside resource that can help you mitigate those risks before they become a problem. So risk mitigation is another key role of finance and accounting team members in digital transformations. Another key role that finance and accounting team members should play on projects, although most of the time they don't, they should be focused on where the value is going to be created as a result of the digital transformation. On one hand, it is important to focus on mitigating risk and controlling cost, as I've already discussed in this video, but it's just as important to ensure that you're realizing and optimizing the business value and the value creation that comes out of your investments in digital transformations. Too often, organizations invest a lot of money in a digital transformation, and even if they keep it on track and on budget, they don't necessarily have the ROI or the results to show for it. So one of the key roles that you as a finance and accounting team member can play is to help quantify what the business benefits or the potential business benefits are, and to really hold the organization accountable for making sure that they realize those benefits. And in the absence of this mechanism or this sort of project governance to ensure business value, most organizations are not going to realize the business value. You need someone who's focused on it, who's really going to hone in on it, measure it, and look for root causes for why we're not achieving the results right away. And that's a role that most finance and accounting departments are perfectly equipped to play. So the focus on value creation is an important part of finance and accounting's role in digital transformations. The next important role that finance and accounting team members need to play is an input into the project itself as a subject matter expert. In other words, identifying what those future state business processes are and ensuring that the technology that's being deployed addresses the needs of the finance group. And this is true from the perspective of not only business processes and workflows, but also outputs from those business processes and workflows. In other words, the reporting, the analytics, the business intelligence, the consolidation outputs, the period end close outputs that come out of the future state systems. That's a really important deliverable that most finance and accounting departments need to have a very clear vision for. So the finance and accounting group needs to play an important role in ensuring that these inputs and these processes fit the needs of their part of the organization. Now, finally, if you are an organization that has private equity investment in the organization, the finance and accounting group is going to have additional responsibilities or additional areas of focus that might be a bit unique to your organization. Most private equity organizations have a low tolerance for spending too much money on a project or letting a project get out of control. So some of the other aspects I've already talked about here so far today are magnified and even more important for organizations that are owned by private equity firms. However, in addition to that, a lot of times private equity firms have very clear criteria and parameters for what they do and don't want out of a digital transformation. So it's really important to view these private equity stakeholders as a really important stakeholder in the process and almost have a little mini change management campaign to ensure that you have a clear understanding of what those inputs are and that those inputs and those opinions of what the digital transformation should reflect are incorporated into the overall strategy for the project. So if you are owned by a private equity group, then you want to make sure that you have those sorts of inputs and that sort of focus on ensuring that these stakeholders are satisfied. So these are a few things to keep in mind and consider as you embark on a digital transformation from the perspective of a finance or accounting team member. For more information on best practices on what makes a digital transformation successful, I encourage you to read our ebook called Lessons from 1,000 Digital Transformations. You can read that for free on our website. Just click the QR code in front of you, or you can go to the description field below for links to that book, as well as other resources that I think will help you through your transformation. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day. And accounting groups. The end. Yep. My inflection sounds weird today. It's just it's just like flat or off are some of the key important steps or things that you might do. I rest my case. Mic drop.